think it's more clear than ever before that what happens at the state and local levels really matters. And I don't need to tell you, but this week has been quite a week. I watched the debate on Tuesday, or should I say was assaulted by the debate on Tuesday, as I'm sure all of you were too. The president showed once again exactly who he is. He's no role model, he's no leader, he's a disgrace. Unwilling to condemn white supremacists who support him, unwilling to support a peaceful transition when he loses, illegally encouraging voter intimidation, unwilling to acknowledge global warming, not to mention his criminal incompetence to address the COVID crisis, which he's now his own victim of. And the way that we're going to shut this president down is by voting up the ballot for Democrats, especially Democratic women. There might not be a lot of suspense about New York going blue for Biden-Harris, but we still have a role to play here. And our role in New York is to vote in huge numbers so that there can be no question whatsoever that there will be no 4 more years. There will not be 4 more years for this administration. We need to encourage everyone to vote up the ballot, starting with the Democratic women running for local office and the state Senate and Assembly. It's always mattered who's leading all the way up the chain from our towns to our counties to our state legislature to the US Senate. And that's why, as Brett said, Judith Hope founded Eleanor's Legacy. She knew that we needed talented women both serving at the state level and in the pipeline for higher office. And that's why I'm so happy and honored and glad that Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is in the fight for our future. Senator comes from a long line of New York women who know that democracy is about action. Serving as our senator since 2009, after serving in the House, we all know the fierce advocate that she is for our rights and what is right for New Yorkers and the country. Her Off the Sidelines movement and book really serve as a roadmap or a handbook for how to step up, advocate for yourself, and get involved in whatever walk of life. I was listening to her speak recently, and one particular quote I liked was, she said, "Your voice is the difference between a country that protects you and one that does not." And she doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the walk. And I want to thank her for throwing her hat into the ring and running for president. Though she's not our nominee, unfortunately, her credible candidacy helped normalize women running for the highest office. Please join me in welcoming our friend, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
It's so good to be on this call. It's so good to know that so many of us that I know so well are connected remotely. I don't like Zoom generally. It's pretty tedious, but it is a way for us to know we are not alone in this, and we are really going to get through it together. I really want to thank Donna for the introduction. It was lovely. You're such a role model for so many of us, and also a beacon of light in our community. It really matters. So thank you for being who you are and what you do. I also want to give a shout out to Judith Hope for always being not only a mentor of mine, but someone I could always count on for good advice, for encouragement, for support. She's someone who truly believes in female leadership and has helped me every step of the way in every endeavor I've ever had in politics. And I just want to thank her deeply for all she's given to so many candidates over so many decades, and for running for office herself in a red district. So she's a role model in every way. So I just appreciate her. I want to thank everyone who's on the call, because obviously we choose where to spend our money and our time, and being together in this community makes a difference. And I want to thank each of you who has already given to candidates, who's already been involved in races across the country and across our state, because it really does matter. I do think this election is the most important election of our lifetime. I think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are exactly the right people at this time to bring this country back together again, and to really earn votes in red places, purple places, and blue places. And I think that's one thing about Joe's candidacy that is so strong, that he empathizes with people. He's lived through suffering. He knows what it's like to endure the worst and rebuild from there. And so for a country that's healing from COVID and healing its economy, I can't think of a better healer than Joe Biden, because he's had to do it for himself over and over again. And I think that's one thing about his candidacy that's so unique and so powerful. And so, for all those who are supporting Joe, thank you. And if you're not yet supporting Joe, please do. Even if he wasn't your first choice, he is someone who's carrying our mantle. And for all the candidates, he's also carrying our ideas. One of the best things I did during my presidential race was roll out a family bill of rights, national paid leave, affordable daycare, universal pre-K, ability of all women and transgender men to have children if they want to have children, through surrogacy, through IVF, and to have that be covered, and also to make sure you can survive childbirth. And that's something we have to address with the maternal mortality rates as high as they are in this country and in our own city of New York. It has to change, and it's a lot to do with institutional racism, since Black women are 4 times more likely to die in childbirth. So that whole platform, Joe took it and he's used it and he's amplified it and expanded it. So there's been a lot of really great things. So I hope everyone on this call is all in for Joe and Kamala. I think together they'll make a huge difference on this ticket. I want to recognize all the efforts Donna has made as part of her family. She comes from a political family like I do. We watched her mother break glass ceilings and make history. And I had the benefit of having role models in my mother and my grandmother as well. And I just know how important that is when you have a legacy within your family to carry it forward and carry it on. I really loved, as a kid, watching my grandmother thrive in politics. It excited her. It engaged her. She loved women. She wanted women to be involved. There's a famous story how she was asked by a gubernatorial candidate to get the women to support him. And she got 500 women in a ballroom during a blizzard in upstate New York. And so I find that remembering what she accomplished and why she was so dedicated has always helped me. So I just want to recognize Donna for all she's done, and the legacy she carries on, because it's one I carry on too. I think it's an important thing to remember all those who go before us. Which is to my next point, which is about suffrage. We are here to celebrate 100 years of suffrage, and we all stand on the shoulders of giants who came before us, whether it's our mother or our grandmother. But we as New Yorkers stand on extraordinary New York women. Hillary Clinton, first nominee of the Democratic Party, who's a woman who literally made so many cracks in that glass ceiling. I just can't wait till it's broken. We also had other New Yorkers like Susan B. Anthony, and we had Sojourner Truth, and we had Harriet Tubman. We have such a legacy of New York women who really just accomplished extraordinary things. We also have the legacy of women's rights being born in New York. The fact that we had Seneca Falls, and the fact that Elizabeth Cady Stanton wrote those first fundamental rights of women, the sentiments, and she made a difference because she's the first one to actually write down and have everyone agree that all women and men are created equal, which I think is really important because it did start here. We have a lot to be proud of because New York has continued to be at the forefront of civil rights, social justice, and human rights. We have extraordinary leaders like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who took the law to places that it had never been before. Women who understood that their voice actually mattered from the time they were young and used it every day of their lives. We have women like Marsha P. Johnson, who pushed LGBT equality rights at the Stonewall riots, which, again, really mattered because LGBT rights are just coming into full form now because of the sacrifices and work they made long, long ago. So as we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, we celebrate the tireless work of all those leaders, all the women who came before us, and all the women who will come after us. We are part of a very diverse and beautiful tapestry of women who have committed their lives to making our communities better and stronger. It actually is extraordinary to think about how many people have sacrificed over so many decades to make a difference. And I feel really lucky that we're part of this, that we're part of the long journey that, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, quote, women belong in all places where decisions are being made. That is it. And so one of the most important decisions that we make are the decisions we make in our voting booths. And so everything that we care about is on the ballot this year. I really can't even imagine an election more important than this one. We have to get rid of Donald Trump in every way we can and elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I believe we will do that. We just need to make sure every vote is counted and no one gives up. Second, we have a huge opportunity to flip the US Senate. And I know a lot of people on this call have done extraordinary work to funding those campaigns, raising money, raising awareness, making phone calls. If you are stuck in your home and you want to do more, literally reach out to any candidate that you admire and ask if you could do phone calls for them, because a lot of people aren't knocking on doors. Some are, some campaigns are, but some aren't. And so making those phone calls from where you are can be the difference of winning over a vote and not winning over a vote. And it works. I have a group of high school students that are making phone calls for Joe Biden. And I get reports from them, and they tell me about the one voter they convinced in Pennsylvania, or the one voter they convinced in Ohio or Iowa. So it really does matter, and anybody can do it. You can do it with your friends. You can do it with your family. So I hope that everyone here knows how important their vote and their voice is right now. All politics is local, and it truly is the truth. That's why I'm looking forward to helping some of our state Senate candidates. We have Samra Brouk, who's going to be on the call later, and you're going to meet her. She is a fighter, and she's going to win. So I'm excited that she is being supported by the Eleanor Roosevelt legacy. We're also going to hear from one of our leaders, our New York City Council member, Jenny Low, who is one of our Eleanor Roosevelt legacy vice presidents, which is great. And I just want to leave you with a final message that anytime a woman does make the commitment to run for office, it changes the outcome. Because even if she doesn't win, she's lifted up issues that perhaps no one else is bothering to debate. She's lifted up problems that she wants to solve and offered her unique solutions. Women have a intuitive understanding of communities and families that is such a gift to public service. It's not surprising that when women are in those small rooms, those closed door meetings, that outcomes change. It's not a surprise that Andrea Stewart Cousins has been the extraordinary leader that she has and gotten so much done in our state in her long, long career, because she is in that room. It makes a difference that Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House during an epidemic. The ability of her to be able to corral and to utilize her years of experience to put forward legislation to make people well and to get testing and tracing and vaccines created. She's the one who, because of her experience and expertise, has moved our country in a better direction. So I can just tell you, women's leadership matters. What we bring to the table is different, and it is unique. And if you've ever thought about running, you should, because there's not many people who want to run. So if you do want to run, reach out to the Eleanor Roosevelt Legacy. That's why they're here. Eleanor Roosevelt Legacy is truly the best organization in the country for local elected leaders and for people who want to run on the local level. I was lucky enough to be on its board a long time ago, and I enjoyed every minute of it because it's the chance we have to make sure our bench is filled with amazing women so that they can run for local office, for statewide office, for national office. And it all starts on the local level. So if you ever wanted to run and still it's pulling on you, you should run. And you should call me because I'll help you through off the sidelines. And you should call Brett because she'll help you through Eleanor Roosevelt Legacy. So together, we are here to serve. We are here to make a difference. And thank you for participating in every way you already have participated.
Brett, and thank you to the whole Eleanor's Legacy family. The words that Senator Gillibrand just shared with us just actually had me getting a little bit shivers over here, getting goosebumps. Because when you have this many incredible, powerful, brilliant, service oriented women in one room, it really seems like we can do anything, doesn't it? And I have to tell everyone, it is as simple as just raising your hand, as Senator Gillibrand said, if it's something you feel like you need to do, because we do need more women running for office. And it was as simple for me as being in a living room and listening to Brett just talk about what it's like to run for office, what it's like to raise money, what, you know, how you can change things for the better. And that was about a year and a half ago. So it's very possible. So I have a question for Senator Gillibrand, and I think we're all going to lean on you, because we're leaning on all of our national and federal government women electeds, because the headlines are scary. And you mentioned, you know, what's happening with the Supreme Court and Justice Ginsburg's vacancy. So, you know, part of what we talk about a lot is how to redemocratize our processes, which means more people running for office. It means making voting easier, but also the intricate processes that happen within government. And over the weekend, you said you would not meet with Judge Amy Coney Barrett because that process isn't legitimate and because people do deserve to have a voice. Can you tell us more about that decision and how other senators have reacted to that and joined you?
So, first of all, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's legacy is something extraordinary. And she is a woman who did such important things on the Supreme Court for women's rights, for civil rights, and has a whole legacy of dissents that will probably be majority decisions someday, because that's how provocative and thoughtful she was as a jurist. So for me, because Mitch McConnell denied Merrick Garland a hearing and a vote, I felt that what he did with this recent vacancy is nothing short of an outrage. He basically has one standard for himself and another standard for us. He said you couldn't review a justice in an election year, and that was a decision that was made in March before the election. We are now in October, and he doesn't seem to care that his rationale makes no sense and that he is lying and really trying to subvert democracy. And so I'm deeply concerned that the process is fundamentally flawed. And so as a result, I'm not participating in the process because the process is bad. So I'm not going to meet with her. I'm not going to assess her qualifications. I'm not going to go through the process that you would normally go through, because it's not even a valid nomination. And not only should the president wait till the election, he should wait to, and if he loses, and it should be allowed for the next president. It should be after inauguration. So I'm just not participating because it's an invalid process. Senator Schumer said the same thing. Several members of the Judiciary Committee, Mazer Hirono and Dick Blumenthal, said the same thing. So I don't know if any others will. I have no hope that the Republicans will do the right thing. We did hear from a few of them early on that they thought the process should wait till after the election. But I think almost all of them have now gone back on that statement. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Mitch McConnell basically threatened them and said, you either participate or we don't help you get your reelection. And that's the kind of hardball nastiness that I expect from Senator McConnell these days. So sadly, we have no leadership on the Republican side saying that this is an illegitimate process and that it should not be pursued till after the election. But I'm not surprised because, they've had chances to stand up to President Trump many, many times. And the few times in the last 3 years that they have are very rare. So I don't have a lot of hope that our Republican colleagues care anything about anything more than the power that they have and the power that they want to keep. So that's the cynical side of politics, sadly. But the good news is we have some great Senate candidates all across the country. and they are running in red and purple places, and I believe they will win. And I'll just give you a quick rundown so people can feel optimistic about this. So we need 4 seats to flip. The 4 that are ahead right now that are doing very well, Mark Kelly in Arizona, Cal Cunningham in North Carolina, John Hickenlooper in Colorado, and Steve Bullock in Montana. Those are our probably top performing races. Then we have 2 more that are very close behind, within 1 point or 1 point up. Teresa Greenfield in Iowa and Sarah Gideon in Maine. So that's 6 places that are in play. Among our incumbents, we have 4 that are in tougher seats, but the only one that's below 50% is from Alabama, Doug Jones. But he could close that gap. So he's our toughest reelection. The other ones we have to care about are Michigan, Gary Peters, he's ahead, but we want to make sure we are vigilant in that race. Tina Smith in Minnesota. For some reason, Trump is just trying to put Minnesota in play and being very aggressive about it. And Jean Shaheen in New Hampshire, just because New Hampshire is traditionally purple and we just have to protect her. So those are the races we have to concern ourselves about to make sure they keep blue. And then we have another half dozen of longer shots that we might just win 1 or 2 of them because we are that close. Kansas, we're within a few points. Barbara Bollier, we're very close in the 2 Georgia seats are getting closer. We are getting close in Alaska. We are getting close in South Carolina. The last Jamie Harrison poll had him down by 1. So that's exciting. MJ Hager is working very hard in Texas to close the gap. And so is Amy McGrath, just trying to take out McConnell directly, which I love the effort. And I love the fact that she's leaving it all on the field. And majority leaders do lose sometimes because they don't spend enough time at home. And Mitch is definitely one of those guys. So I have a lot of hope in this field of candidates. And I think anything's possible at this point. If I had to bet today, we would win the Senate.
As you know, I live in New York. We met when you first came to the parade, the Lunar New Year parade, after you became our senator. I have been working and volunteering with a network of folks to help our residents, the most vulnerable, the seniors and those who are homebound throughout the pandemic. So here we are, New York City is broke. So counting on that support is very minimal at this point. And we have been, both the state and the city have been looking for the federal government. And with the person in the White House, I know you are fighting very hard, and along with our congressional delegation. What can we expect from the federal government, and how do we support you in your fight to get some support to us in New York State, but other states as well, right? Other blue states in particular.
Yep. So unfortunately, Mitch is, for some reason, he's not worried about the people in his state, and the Republicans, for the most part, are following his lead. And I was really disappointed because I thought the August break would have given all these senators time to meet with their governors, their local leaders, their mayors, and hear about how desperate the situation is, because it's desperate everywhere. New York is not alone. Small businesses in New York are not alone. Restaurants in New York are not alone. Like, everyone is truly struggling. And the state's economies are struggling. And I've talked to our governor many, many times, and he just has gaping holes in his budget that he can't possibly fill because whole industries have been unable to be open and create revenue for the state. So a couple of things. First, they're in negotiations right now to try to come up with a smaller bill. Maybe Nancy yesterday passed a $2.2 trillion bill. That bill had city and state money, had money for healthcare, had money for first responders, had money for small businesses, had the unemployment money. All the stuff that would keep the lights on for another couple months was in that bill until hopefully we win and can put a real big bill on the table in January. So there's a chance. It's not a very big chance, but there is a chance that Nancy's package could be negotiated with the White House to something like a 1.5 trillion or a $2 trillion package that we could just pass right now and do it before the election, so real relief gets going. If that doesn't happen, then we have to, again, everything's about the election, because if we don't win, we can't fix the problems, because only Biden has a plan for revamping the whole economy, making it, build it back better, making sure it works for everybody. And a lot of us put out plans during the last 2 years about how to do that. And so some of the priorities are this, and I'll just go through a couple of them. First of all, in the HEROES Act, which was passed in May by the House, that bill provided rental assistance. It provided more small business loans, and it basically focused on getting money to businesses across the country, including minority-owned businesses, would very much help New York City. Second, we had a lot of money in there for commercial renters, as well as regular renters and mortgage holders. So there was a lot of housing relief and business relief. We also have 2 other bills that we would include in the Senate side. One is the Restaurant Act. That's $120 billion that would provide relief to food service and drinking establishments. And the Restart Act, which would be a loan program that would cover 6 months of payroll, benefit, and operating expenses for small and medium-sized businesses that have taken a substantial revenue hit. So those are the urgent economic recovery bills we want to include in whatever package we get to vote on. Long term, we need to really invest in city and state, just to give them revenue replacement for the next 6 months. We need to continue to invest in things like food stamps, hunger relief. This COVID epidemic has revealed the digital divide between Black and Brown communities and higher income communities. Rural communities don't have Wi-Fi or broadband, and they don't have tablets either. So if you're poor in America, it's unlikely that you have the technology at your home that you need to make sure your kids can be schooled remotely. So addressing the digital divide is hugely important. And then revamping our whole education system. Healthcare, education, and jobs is the crux of any future package that we want to focus on for the new year under a Biden administration. I would like to guarantee job training to anyone who's underemployed or unemployed, and do it through community colleges and state schools, and make it free. I think universal access to job training should be a priority for Democratic candidates and the Democratic Party. I also want to deal with the fact that a lot of people don't have income or are very low income. So I want to create our postal banking bill to shore up the post office long term with revenue, $9 billion a year, but also provide basic banking to the third of Americans who are the 30% of Americans who are unbanked or underbanked. So those are some of my top line priorities for the next COVID package.
There's a question that I bet is on everyone's mind that's in the Q&A that people want your input on, Senator, and then ask you for some final call to action for the women and men that are on this Zoom today, whether they be candidates like Samra or voters and volunteers like Jenny. So the question from the audience for you, Senator, is what's your sense of how Trump's positive COVID tests will change the campaign over the next 4 weeks to go?
I've been thinking about that a lot today. It'll definitely have to change how he campaigns, because he can't do his rallies for the next 2 weeks for sure. It may change how he acts. I don't know. He's so irrational. You can't really predict how he would be affected. But I do think the fact that Mike Lee just got a COVID diagnosis is also something we need to think through, because Mike Lee and many Republicans come to the floor without masks. They go to hearings and take off their mask. I can't tell you how many armed services hearings I've been in, and not one Republican has a mask on. And these are enclosed rooms that aren't that big. Like when you're particularly in the SCIF and doing a top secret hearing, the room's not big. I don't even know how many feet long it is. Maybe 20 feet. Maybe it's 20 by 40. It's not big. And there's 20 people in there. So I don't know. which is going to mean that maybe Mitch can't do his Supreme Court justice. I don't know, but it's going to affect things because everyone on judiciary should be tested now. I'm going to get a COVID test today. And I think it's an issue. So I don't know the answer to the questions. Let me start there. I don't know how Trump will change his campaigning, but he's going to have to at least quarantine for the next 2 weeks. And obviously, our prayers are with everyone who has COVID, and we want people to recover. So I feel badly for his family, but it might change his campaigning. I don't know. I'm not sure. If the next debate is within a 2-week time period, it'll have to be postponed for sure.
So as a reminder to everybody, the senator and off the sidelines have endorsed candidates across the country. Samra Brouk is running for state senate in New York 55 in Rochester. And it's crucial. I want to emphasize that people understand that the scope of the New York State Senate, we talked about the work that they were able to accomplish by flipping the New York State Senate in 2018. But battles don't stay won, and wars don't stay won. And holding and building that majority is crucial for the work that the senator wants to do in Washington, and that Samra wants to do in Albany, and that Jenny is doing already for her neighbors in Chinatown and in Lower Manhattan. And I believe, I don't know if she wants to give us, she just had to.
I'm still here.
Okay, good. I'm going to give you, Senator, a last call to action. Although I of course, was coming in and off the Zoom. I want to be sure in your lineup, as you give us a call to action and bolster us for the next 1 month and 1 day. Sarah Gideon in Maine, where does she fall on your barometer?
She's up right now. I think she's up by a couple of points. So if her lead holds, she's one of our victories. She and Teresa Greenfield they've been hovering one up, one down for a long time. And most recently, I think Sarah's was up. So they're just very tight. So making phone calls for them really helps. They're great candidates. They're just such great candidates. And then if you want to add a third woman who's on the cusp is Barbara Bollier in Kansas. And then if you want to help some people who are really working hard who can use the help, I would add Amy McGrath and MJ Hager. So those are our 5 women that are running for Senate right now. And then we have great male candidates across the country, all of whom I've helped as well. So there's lots of good work to do. And if anybody needs, also don't forget, we have a bunch of women running in New York State for the House. We've got, I think, 3 or 4, and they're all amazing. I don't know if anybody on the call can list all those races, because I don't want to miss any, but we have Tedra Cobb, who's running in the North Country, who's got a shot. We have a really amazing woman running for Peter King's seat. We have 2 running in Central New York. So, I mean, they're fantastic. And we have another one, I think, on Long Island. Don't we have one running?
We have a scientist running, Nancy Goroff, against
Yes. So we have 5 in our own state. Can you list them, Brett, for everybody? Do you have them on the tip of your tongue?
Yeah, absolutely. And I see Judith Hunter from the Democratic World Conference wants to be sure we all keep in mind Tracy Matrano and Dana Balter in Central New York, Tedra in the North Country, Nancy Goroff on Long Island, Jackie Gordon for the
Jackie Gordon is the one. Yeah, she has a shot of winning that seat. Pete King held on to that seat way longer than he should have been allowed, and she's doing great. So all those 5 women I've done events for, they're all outstanding, and I think they can all win. So if you want to do local stuff, I bet those women will knock on doors because the COVID rate upstate's very low. So I bet they will do it. If anybody wants to get out of the city and wants to, do old-fashioned campaigning, I'm sure those campaigns would love it. But if you're not willing to do that and you don't want to do that, then make phone calls for them. The phone calls really do matter, and the fact that you're New Yorkers, I think that'll resonate more with their voters. I just remember, when I ran for Congress in 2006, the women on this call came to upstate New York and knocked on Hudson Valley doors for me. And it mattered. Patty Kenner rented a bus and brought up a dozen women, and they knocked on, well, it's her bus, but knocked on doors and did such an amazing job. I have photographs from that day that they came up, and I love them because they are wonderful. But I can tell you, when other New Yorkers step up and help out, it means the world to these women candidates. I can't tell you how grateful we are when friends around the state care, especially when you're running in a red place. The resources in New York go a long way, and New York City has a lot more money than upstate. So when you guys do max out to those candidates, 2,800 is the max, it goes so far. And it just makes them feel like they're some part of something bigger than themselves. I certainly always did. And that's why Eleanor Roosevelt Legacy has meant the world to me, because our members are fantastic and they went the extra mile for me over and over again.
Check my nails, baby, how you feeling?